Engine ran great. Besides the timing chain being loose, the marks are off by, looks to be at least one tooth. Motherfucker. I put all this time and money into this fucking engine and it fucking knocks. Listen, this could be construed as my fault because I didn't check every square inch and take off bearing caps and all this and that, but it's a used engine. It's supposed to run. I changed the oil pump. I changed the timing chain. Here you go. Flipped over. Maybe he ran it with no oil pressure because it flipped over. And then he has that's low miles. You got to be kidding me. This guy's a joker. And then, he didn't even know what year it was, but, I'm over it now. But I had to tell him something, but ultimately, don't do what I did. I really don't know what time I started, but it's not too bad considering I know all the sizes of the bolts now and everything is not 50-year-old or 60-year-old tight anymore. And it's a shame, but such is life. Yeah, this is the one I just put in that was no good. This one is the one that was the old one that came out of your car originally. And the other one's in the truck, and I'm going to somehow bring it in here and try to set it up on the engine stand. But right now I got to take all the shit off this one. The mounts, the manifolds, the oil pump, the timing chain cover, and I got to put everything on the side, clean it, and get it ready, prepped for the other engine. But the whole other engine needs prep, so it's all be done at the same time when it comes to that. But right now I got to get it all apart and then move all these. These are all the parts that I had to take off. These are more parts and bolts underneath. And as you recall, same picture pretty much. Oh well, back to the drawing board. I guess I would have figured this out. I saw it's a leak. It's a little wet here, and this is the oil pressure, and this is the switch that I put in that came with a gauge, and it's obviously cheap Chinese stuff because, so I'm not even going to bother putting I was going to put a separate oil gauge, but you got to look at your light. You got to make sure everything's working with that. It'll be fine. I have two switches in here. One is going to turn on the choke by knowing that the engine is running, because the choke opens too soon, then it has another thing, but it's obviously, I can see this pool of oil up there. So it's dripping all the way down the thing to here. It's not leaking from this base. There's no way. So that's all heavy-duty plumbing stuff I put in. That ain't going to leak. It's leaking from the fucking sheet. Oh, look at that. It's separated. I can see. What a piece of shit. I don't think I hit it going in. You can tell it's up on this side. It's just cheap. The whole setup was like $15, and it's junk. So I'm just going to put a plug in that. And truthfully, the distributor was facing this way, the vacuum advance, so I can put it back in the original position. But I may not, because I may want to still put something there eventually, but it's probably not necessary at this point. Dodgers lived without oil gauges forever, only on the real big hot rods like Dodge Chargers had them and stuff, so I think we'll be fine. So in my anger, the very next day, day after Christmas, I yanked the engine out, but before I did that, I went to a junkyard locally and I got an engine. Hopefully, with the 90-day warranty, they're trying to sell me something decent, but they couldn't tell me the mileage. I got all the parts off the old engine. Old engine's over here. And this is just all very, very unfortunate. So going back to what the guy who had sold me the engine on was the fact that it was kind of rebuilt. And this thing was knocking loud, as you heard in that video. And I shook every single connecting rod. I could not get a noise out of it. So this doesn't mean that it's not bad. It means that somebody changed the bearings and forced everything together, and it's tight upon just trying to spin it. But under load, it still makes the noise, and it probably had some wear in it. I had this white shit that looks like, I guess it's bearing material. There's a lot of dirt in here that I wasn't expecting. I don't even know. This looks like white lube almost, which means, I don't know, maybe water was in the oil. Maybe it had a bad head gasket, because I never actually put antifreeze in the engine. I usually run it without antifreeze just to start, just to make sure everything was good before you get into that mess. But definitely something's wrong. And the whole contraption with the that cheap Amazon. It was $15 for the whole thing, including the gauge. I was going to add a gauge to it, but it was leaking, you know. But what was funny is like I got all oil on the back flange, and it's funny because like I have the same motor. See, it got wet right directly behind the flange. So I want to say that it dripped behind there, but I'm not thinking that. But I'm not also seeing an issue with the way the seal was sealing here. Even though it was very funny to me, I almost want to use the Magnum one, because some people say use the old style front seal and then the Magnum one piece. So I might reuse the Magnum off the junkyard engine. I'll see. I don't know. It's starting to be expensive for everything. So, and truthfully, to buy it locally, it's like $50 for one gasket. Then you still got to buy another gasket. Nobody has that gasket, you know. So everything's I got cleaned up. But like there's a snowstorm coming tonight, so I want to get the other engine in on an engine stand, and this engine in with all the parts, and start to set it up. And I got to put all this mess away. Put the engine stand. Well, I don't know if I'll put the engine hoist away. I'm going to need it, obviously, but I'll take all this shit just to get to it, or reorganize it so it's right in the front, something like that. But very unfortunate. Was not looking to have two engines sitting out here. Out of the truck on the nice free seatbelt they gave me, lifting engines out. And I got to get it on the stand now and see what the deal is right away. I can tell it's a stick. It was coming from a stick shifting, so I got this fucker out, and relatively clean. Does not look like it was leaking, and it does look like new water pump and new timing cover. This is a new seal over here too, so I actually feel good about using this. But then again, they may have not taken off the pan. It may have just been they may have reused it just like I was planning and glued it up. But I'll see. I mean, some of this stuff that's added on here, well, it's really only power steering pump. It may be usable. The brackets, if somebody wants to convert to a serpentine. Looks like they had these huge fucking wires on here, which was kind of cool. I mean, they're ripped up, but I mean, you gotta figure they were kind of being good to the car, put some money into it. I mean, it could have been 50,000 miles ago. You just don't know, you know. The guy, he did pressure wash it, but, you know, it's like, I told him, really concentrate good. I said, that's really going to help me out. And I guess he did, for the most part. I guess it's paintable. I'm going to hit it with some brake cleaner, and that's it. Even the power steering pump got a little nailed over here. There's some parts of a harness that maybe be used, but they largely cut everything. I don't know, some kind of sensors or something. I'd have to trace it back. But it looks like fuel rail could be good. They actually covered the holes here and shoved the bag in here, and they covered the top. And he said he spun the motor before he gave it to me. I hope so, but we'll see. Pretty good in that sense. So we shall see. And now I got a lot of undoing to do. Next day, engine out. New engine bought. Put it on the stand. Stripped down that engine. Took all the stuff off. Put it in piles everywhere. Cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to set this thing up on the stand so I can start working on it and taking all the other shit off. And I think that's a full day. It's only 2:49, and I pretty much, I mean, I've been going since 8 this morning. I left my house pretty much at 8 to go to the junkyard. That took an hour and a half or so. Stopped by AutoZone, got a couple of things, then came here, and then next thing you know, it's like pretty much 11 o'clock. I talked with the owner. I put everything, I did all the work, and then I just unloaded it now. It's a full day for not that many hours of work when you think about it. So pretty crazy. The only negative here is, oh, look. Sucky, sucky, fucky, fucky. I love you long time. I fuck you good. Oh, yeah. So, got the front of the motor off. And I'm going to say this is original. I'd have to look up. That looks like an original part number. Yep. I'm going to say that's original. So I thought the thing was changed, but it was just the steam Jenny at the junkyard. They were only able to get on either side. I told them to really hit it good, and it's like, whatever. But definitely somebody changed the water pump, but it just looked clean afterwards. As far as this bottom, maybe the pan was changed. You know, oil pumps go bad, and it's very possible somebody did it, or they had to get it off. The pan could have been rotted, you know, and they changed the pan. Because, and believe it or not, the motor I took out had a lot more slack than this, you know. That actually is not that bad. I'm going to say 120, you know. I don't think anybody just changes the chain. I'd be shocked. But it's not like the chain looks... The chain has the exact same amount of, sludge buildup than that does, which is minor for this many miles, even if it's on the lower side of what I think. The guy did tell me, the junket, he's like, we don't even, if something's, beyond 2002, we just don't even count the mileage, all bets are off. See, I thought this was done because I could see it, but I just think it was cleaned by the steam Jenny, and it just looked like it was newer than I thought. Even though like some of the silicone looks smudged, but it still could have taken down the pan for some reason. It does happen, But this red stripe here, I've seen some gaskets have this red stripe, but this it has metal embedded into it. This is the original timing of it. Nobody took this off, So, and the thing is, the metal, I heard a lot of stories about this metal. There's a guy on YouTube that has a whole bunch of these gaskets on the wall, and everyone breaks worse than the other, and it usually leaks from the outside here. So, I guess it doesn't take that much mileage to do it. Usually it's on this side, but I think he said it can happen on either side. But in all the grand scheme of things, this is, I thought it had like 150. I was trying to feel it, when I was in the junkyard, but it's really not bad. I expect this to be way worse because, the other one has the tool on it, so let's see it. It should fit. So, there's probably not many good ways to do this. Let's see how that works. You kind of see me, but it's like, yeah, see? That's not a lot of play when you think about it. When you looking for actual rotational, offness, it's not much more than a couple of degrees, which is totally normal, and it's much more indicative of something that's in the 100,000 mile range and not, beginning, closer to 200,000. So I'm actually pretty happy about that. So we'll see, and if you remember in the other thing, I had to hack off this, and then I had to shave down this. It's so funny how they did that. They very easily could have made a spacer. So I'm a little bummed about that. I have to do it all over again. But I think this guy will come out. This was bent and the thing was broken off inside. But that's what you get with a junkyard. So, and if this breaks in the block, it's supposed to be free. But I got to put two hands on it. So, but this is, I'm very happy with what I see now. It looks bad, but the other one was way worse. I remember seeing this and thinking, gee, nothing adds up to this motor with what the guy said. Basically, I'm thinking he just got screwed on everything, and he put it on me. All he had to do was just say that this guy did a horrible job and it was knocking. Even though it was rebuilt. Oh yeah, I told you it runs. Fucking runs. I mean, when you say car runs, it has to be a running, ready to use tomorrow engine. Like this would be ready to use tomorrow. It would not break anytime soon, but it's silly for what we're doing. I'm going to do the oil pump. I took the oil pump off and the other thing. It basically ran for a minute. So I'm going to do that, and it'll add new life to the engine for sure. I'm going to say this thing had regular oil changes. I mean, this is barely what you call sludge. It's not even worth cleaning. But we're going to have your other valve covers are cleaner, so I'm going to use those. But they weren't off that engine as the other ones I bought. But this is all very clean. Very happy now. Not so scared. Pretty good. Yeah, this is coming nicely. I'm much more happier. Yeah, it's fucking spotless in engine sense. Of course, I spoke too much. Take off the in-plate manifold, zip out, brake, brake, and back there, brake. Lots of fun. All right. At least I got a peg sticking up there and there, but this one broke clean off into the block. This is going to be fun. And by fun, I mean horrible. All right. Again, not everything can go smooth. Let's see how it comes out. So I smacked this stud really hard with a hammer, and I heard it like give, and then it just came out like butter. This one here, I hit it. I did this one first, snapped off just using a pipe wrench, but it came out. It's going to come out like butter now on this. I just heated it longer. I got to heat them and drill these out now, but I think it's going to come out pretty good once I'm sure that it's heated, and because the threads go through, that's why it fucking rust, you know. So they should have made the bolts longer so they extend not past it, but just even with the hole. It kind of is actually, now that I think about it, but it always leaves trouble when it's exposed to weather. This is some fucking hard shit, but at the very end, I got all the little pieces out. I can kind of still see remnants of threads here. So worst case scenario, you can see right there. And I've been going back and forth, but this one here got totally drilled wrong, but then I started drilling it right. I realized that it's lower. See, what I did is I put a bolt in here to match it up, but I realized it's actually in further, and it's a shorter bolt, I believe, unless the manifold is taller, because they all look like the same size bolts. So I think the manifold is tall, so it perceives that it's like that, but it's actually down lower, and I guess there just ends up being they're scooted in a hair. And I didn't even realize that, so when I was kind of measuring it, I mean, it looks like it should be straight, but it's really not. This hole was off center, as you can see now. The more I was also revealing this little centering thing, whatever you want to call it, but now I kind of have a better idea of where I am. But it's been difficult because where I drilled it was not in the center, and I had a lot of bolt there, and I was trying to beat the bolt out, and it just wasn't coming out. I had to beat it from the bottom. That's a mess, but like I said, as long as there's thread somewhere, I could put a stud in there, and I can weld it in. I can JB weld it in probably, you know. I gotta get all these metal filings out everywhere. I had a rag there at first, and I got tired of it because it kept going on fire when I was heating it. So this is more of the same shit on this side until I can finally get it, but basically that's what you want. You want to get the little pieces out, so you reveal the threads, you chase the threads, and then you put a stud in there. Like I said, you can JB weld the stud in there, and it probably ain't gonna come out, especially if you go past it. You can go past it and put a nut if you got a really long stud, you know, and just take it from there. You know, not much you can do sometimes, you know. I mean, it's not like super duper critical either because it's on the end, and it's just stopping this leak here pretty much. Okay, I mean, if you put a nut and bolt, I don't think it'll be the end of the world, to be honest. You know, you can even, it seems to be relatively flat in this one little area here. You know, see, that's flat. So, I mean, you could technically put a nut and a bolt. I probably shouldn't even give a shit that much, but I do. I try to, like, make it right, you know. I could also just drill this out and put a helicoil in. So now, as long as I could find the original threads, and that's where the easy out goes, I'm sorry, the tap goes for the helicoil, I can do that, and it'll be closer to the original. You just want it to be in the middle, you know. That's why it's like if the threads are kind of still there most of the way, I'd kind of just rather leave them because I know it'll be right. And God forbid if it has to be taken off again, hopefully it's able to come out from there. You know, I don't know 100%. I gather it would be, but like I said, just putting a nut on the bottom of it could be safe. You just put no JB weld and just put a nut on the bottom once you get it going through, you know. If you could run the tap and make sure you run it through, because sometimes it's pinch at the end where it wants to be like a kind of like a blind hole, but not, you know. And I'm murdered this side, you know, so it's been rough, you know. How am I gonna get all these metal pieces out? I bought lots of brake cleaner. I got all the shit that fell down from the intake manifold. Even though I blew it off, it was like in a weird spot, like right here where the gasket was or something. So it wasn't just going to blow out. So, like I said, this is clean for 120 to 150,000 miles. Not I've seen cleaner, but I mean I'm not upset. I'm upset about these bolts. That's what I'm really upset about at this point. I'm gonna keep going on this side. So this is like 30 seconds later. I just hit it as hard as I could on the edge here with all my might, and it really buckled in two directions here. So I don't know. I still think it's going to have. I've been using a different die grinder to make it thinner, the wall, because it's just, if you drill in the center, a lot of times you drill, and then you can just, keep picking it and fold it all in from the inside, into the inside. But when you haven't drilled it out enough, and it looks like it's drilled pretty straight here, but it's so off on the bottom. I started to go at a different angle, but once I saw this, I was like, maybe I just keep, digging at it. But all right. I just wanted to show you that if you get to the edge and you hit it as hard as you can, maybe it'll start to go your way. But I don't know. There's only so much it can go, and you obviously don't want to crack off the whole head and hit it too hard. So just technique. I was talking about what I was doing over there. Jesus Christ, that took forever. But I see threads, kinda. Holy effing crap. That is some difficult shit. I gotta clean that up and get figure out my idea, clean up this motor. That's all day tomorrow, and figure out when to do these parts, put them somewhere, throw the garbage out, and Sunday I should get some parts to put it together, some gaskets and stuff. Okay, so I put the carburetor intake on this engine, bolted 4 bolts in, but not all the way, because I'm not making up for the gasket, because the gasket is gone off both engines. And so I went and I got a new heating coil kit from AutoZone. Comes with this and the little inserts, okay? These guys right here, which only comes with 3. I have to do 2, so that's fine, and I can always buy more of these things. But this side, obviously, they were more meat to work with, but this one seemed to work just fine. As messed up as it seemed, it actually, and I didn't go all the way to the bottom, even though there might have been better threads there. You see, it still had a little trouble there at the top, but I can put a longer bolt. I can do a lot of different things. I think the original bolt's going to be fine. But now we put this in the hole. And use the tool here. It has a little notch in the bottom to grab that little thing. And you screw this all the way down. You can put red Loctite on it, but the good news is if this gets fucked up, you can always pull it out and put another one in. But ultimately, you can see that this guy, the one next to it, has that recessed opening, and then it goes down a little further. I can go down even further than that. And the theory is you can get these things longer, but ultimately, I wouldn't have minded longer ones, to be honest. But I don't think it's not really that great a shape. Yeah, I'm going to start seeing it from the bottom. Just coming through here, and I think that's all I really want to go. It's down a lot deeper. You see, those other threads are not really usable. So number one, I can get longer ones of these, and that'll ensure that I don't have an issue, which, now that I think about it, I can try looking for. Ultimately, all you need is the thickness of whatever the thickness of the bolt is. You get the thickness, the depth and the thickness is all you really need. That's the only thing that's holding the bolt. That's the theory, but I kind of believe that it'd be better to have longer ones, So, and you can't really double up 2. Having a longer one in this case may be good in case there's a lot less pressure holding it. The thing is, these bolts are only supposed to be torqued to 15 to 20 pounds. You know what I mean? So it's not a huge deal. This one here, I can put the original threads up quite higher because this one was in way better shape. And hopefully I just drilled it correctly and it's not too far off from the hole. I think it'll be fine because I was able to get the tap in, and the tap is bigger than the bolt that's going to be used. So since I got the tap in, even if I was off a hair, it's hopefully not crooked, but if I was crooked, I don't think it would be a big deal. You see, this one I put closer where the threads are on the top of this one. This can actually go a little bit more to make up for that recess that starts there. Yeah, I don't see it being a big deal. Go down a little further. That's actually going to hold just fine. I don't see it being an issue. And even with the manifold and the motor together, you can actually knock this out, and being that it comes out from the bottom, I didn't tap it all the way through. I might have been better off too, but I kind of wanted something to bind at the bottom just in case it started to move, for whatever reason. Like I said, if I can get longer ones quicker, that's one thing. I'll see. It's really not necessary. I don't see this being an issue at all. I don't know if I can do a nice little demonstration, but let me put this guy on now. Originally, what did I do with these bolts? I just threw them on the floor. Okay. So I originally put these 4 bolts in. Where am I? Not forward enough. So I put these 4 bolts in, and you can see how they're touching the outside. It changes angles as it goes closer to where it has to end up. But those helicoils, they don't come out; they can only go in. So that's how they're designed, So that's why, God forbid, if it started moving when tightening the bolt, if I didn't tap it all the way through, then the helicoil kind of binds, And in the worst case scenario, you can always re-tap it through, But you can see, I got a relatively clear picture of the hole, and these are not tightened yet. This all changes when it tightens, but there's also a gasket. There's a gasket involved. See, that popped up. Everything kind of changes a little, and that bolt was really close to the edge there, and that's also aftermarket with original, and there's no gasket, but with the gasket it comes up a little bit, which I don't know if that means that it'll be in a different place. And this always happens on every engine. One is more aligned than the other, but when the gasket is on, something changes and it's able to find its center, But I'm going to grab a couple of those bolts, which, of course, now I got plenty of bolts between the 2 engines. Normally I'd be tightening all of these bolts. That one went in nice. This one here is not really lined up like I'd like. I'm not sure if I should have either put it in deeper or not. I hate to use a gun on it, but it may just... It actually... I gave it a little force, and it's fine. And it unscrewed just as well. So it's going to be different with the gasket in there. This one will come up, which will give more length to this side, and nothing happens to the thing. Also, I got to break out those. Usually, you take a screwdriver and you bang out those things, but I just tightened it and closed it, and everything should be fine. So this is working. But I have decided that I'm going to pull off the heads, get them checked, get a different oil pan gasket, the Magnum one, and then cut the front to put the old seal to make the pan work better, to make that whole system work better. Because it was kind of funny when I did the other engine, and I've done that on my engine, so I don't understand why it was such a problem this time. But it gave me a little headache. So I'm like, you know what, let me just do what everybody else is doing because they're having really good luck with it. And even though I was 100% sure it wasn't going to leak, but I'm going to have these heads checked probably, maybe have the valve stem seals changed. I don't see why not. At this point, why do it again? And the lady is going to go on vacation for a week, so I have time. Although I want to get it done, I just think I have to wait for parts anyway till Tuesday, so I can pull these heads off now, bring them to the guy on Monday, and have him check it and everything. Everything should be fine. And look at this, I took off the timing cover gasket, sure enough, it basically crumbled right there. So this could have been the problem with this engine, is that it ran great, but it leaked out this antifreeze. And as you can tell from the motor when it's together, it's very complicated looking, all this stuff going together. And this guy had literally done a dozen of these. He had a dozen of these things hanging up, and they all break in the same place. Pretty crazy. So now I'm going to clean up the motor, take off the heads, and get it going, clean up the gasket surfaces, and I'm going to send these heads to be cleaned. I'm going to take out all these guys. There's some rust in here. There was rust on the spark plugs because water had gotten in from the motor sitting. So once these are out, I can take them off the other engine, or I can get these cleaned. I have to ask the guy to clean them as well. I think it'll help to clean. And despite them saying it was an EGR motor, they listed it as an EGR motor, but it was not. So that's probably why the engine is a lot cleaner than you think. So the non-EGR, just to show you this manifold here, right here, there would be a hole here. This thing was the bolt was so stuck on here, it was wailing on this to get it to go. Somebody had fixed this with a quickie flange at one point, but this is where the EGR would normally be, and it's totally welded and blocked, not welded, somebody didn't do that, it was just blocked off. Unless I'm looking at something that I'm not looking, that looks like it's part of the casting that they left it out. So that's a good thing, because it probably explains why the system is a little cleaner. That's why I was actually happy to get non-EGR, because non-EGR means there's not a lot of exhaust recirculating into the engine, which could have a bunch of other negative effects. So it dumps dirt in there. Look at this. It doesn't look good on camera, but it's way cleaner than you would expect, And right there you can see the valve, and that's where the valve stem seals would come into place by changing them. That might look a little cleaner. There's always a little bit of oil there, but if you saw it completely covered, like the other engine, the rings were bad, and if you look in the middle here, see these are the exhaust valves, they end up being white usually, and if they're not white, then they could be burning oil. And that one looks like the valve stem seal is leaking. So it's something that, when you have this all apart, it may not be a huge thing, because these are positive seals, and it's very possible it warms up and the oil stops burning, but why have any? Granted, it comes to a certain point where those things start to wear out, and I guess I'll find that out. I don't want to get the heads rebuilt, because then I could have bought another engine, but all these engines are sitting for 25 years, or more. If it's 1995, it's 30 years. So this is 97. So it's 28 years. Things go bad, And the guy didn't tell me the mileage, but I trust him that it runs good. See how that one is clean? So far, maybe that one's just starting to leak a little bit. This is all very minor. It'd be so much worse. Like the other engine was just loaded with oil everywhere, and you couldn't tell if it was a valve stem seal or not. And the way the thing ran, and the way the amount of smoke that it poured out, that's no valve stem seal. Because what happens is when the valve goes up and down, the valves inside there that you see down there, it's going up and down so fast, it really doesn't burn that much oil while you're running. So what happens is it actually only does it on startup, because it starts to drip. If the seal is no good, or the guy is more, it starts to drip, and you start up and you go so fast, it just gives a puff of smoke and then it clears out. But that engine had, I was reading up on it, the rings were like a single ring going around it for compression and oil, and it's just really bad. The oil control rings, I think, were the real problem, and it sucks. What are you going to do? But I think this is going to work out just fine. But I'm going to start cleaning up, take the heads off, and I ordered new head bolts, because these are torque to yield bolts. and new head gaskets, and all the stuff is relatively affordable. It's going to wait for it. So I want to have the time. I want to be right. I don't want to have any kind of problem with the heads, being that it may have high mileage. And like I said, I don't think the mileage is nearly as high. Even though this looks like it's one, I've seen a lot worse than that. So I still think 120 or 130, which is not bad, So I don't think it's like 170 or 180,000 or 200,000 miles, which I've had all these engines at all different mileages, and you can't even tell the difference. Maybe in the oil consumption at best, but that's about it.